Chiamaka is the woman everyone admires. Successful, graceful, always smiling. But behind closed doors, every night at midnight, she becomes a prisoner in her own home. Her husband takes and takes, leaving her drained, broken, and alone. She cries in silence, then puts on makeup to face the world. But the day she oversleeps and almost ruins a client's wedding, something inside her snaps. This isn't love. It's pain dressed as passion. And now, she's finally ready to fight for her freedom. Chiamaka was a star in Enugu. Everyone loved her cakes, her food, and her smile. She ran a small catering business and made food for big parties, weddings, and birthdays. People clapped when she walked into a room. They called her Queen Chiamaka. But Chiamaka had a big secret. At night, when everyone slept, Chiamaka didn't sleep. Her husband Obiora always woke her up. Every night, at midnight, he touched her and did things she didn't want. He said, "You are my wife. This is your job." Chiamaka would close her eyes and cry inside. She didn't fight. She didn't scream. She just waited for morning to come. But in the morning, she had to smile again. She had to cook and deliver food like nothing happened. No one knew her pain. Not her workers, not her friends, not even her mother. Chiamaka hid her sadness deep inside. She thought, maybe this is what marriage is supposed to be. But her heart was breaking more each day. One day, Chiamaka got a big order, a wedding for a rich family in Enugu. The bride was excited. "Chiamaka, your food must be perfect," she said. Chiamaka smiled and nodded. She planned everything carefully: rice, meat, drinks, cake. She stayed up 2 nights cooking with her team. But the night before the wedding, Obiora did it again. That night, he came into the room at midnight. He didn't care that she was tired. "You're my wife," he whispered. "I need you." Chiamaka begged him. "Please, not tonight. I have a big job tomorrow." But he didn't stop. When he finished, Chiamaka was too weak to stand. Her body hurt. Her mind was tired. She didn't even hear her alarm in the morning. By the time she woke up, it was already 10 a.m. The wedding was at noon. She jumped out of bed, screaming, "Oh no! Oh no! The food!" She called her team and rushed to the kitchen. Everything was late. The bride called her, crying, "Chiamaka, where are you? My wedding is ruined!" Chiamaka finally made it to the venue. But the damage was done. The bride's mother shouted at her. The guests were angry. Chiamaka held back tears as she served food late. She smiled, but inside, she was dying. That night, when she got home, she sat on the floor and cried like a child. That was the first time she whispered to herself, "Maybe I need to leave this man." The next morning, Chiamaka went to buy food items at Ogbede Market. She walked with her head low, still feeling ashamed about the wedding. Some women stared. Others whispered. "Isn't that the caterer who almost spoiled the wedding yesterday?" one asked. Chiamaka tried to smile, but her heart was heavy. As she was picking tomatoes, a woman beside her touched her arm gently. "Sister, are you okay?" the woman asked. Her name was Neka. She sold vegetables and had kind eyes. Chiamaka forced a smile. "I'm fine, thank you." But Neka looked at her for a long time and said, "No, you're not fine. I used to wear that same fake smile too." Those words shocked Chiamaka. She didn't say anything, but her heart began to race. As she walked away, Neka called out, "If you ever need someone to talk to, come back here. I'll be waiting." Chiamaka didn't turn back, but a single tear rolled down her cheek. For the first time, someone had seen through her smile. That night, Obiora came home angry. "Why are people gossiping about you?" he asked. "You're bringing shame to my name." Chiamaka kept quiet. She didn't want to fight. But deep Inside, something small had started to grow, a tiny voice that whispered, "You don't deserve this." Chiamaka couldn't sleep anymore. She was scared of midnight. She would lie in bed, counting the minutes, knowing that Obiora would soon wake up and touch her again. Her heart would beat fast, like drums during a burial. Sometimes, she even pretended to be dead, hoping he would leave her alone. But he never did. One day, she went to a pharmacy and asked for sleeping pills. The pharmacist said, "Ma, be careful. These pills are strong." Chiamaka nodded. She didn't tell him she wasn't taking them for sleep. She was thinking of giving them to Obiora. Just one night of peace. Just one night without being used like a thing. That night, she cooked yam porridge and crushed 2 pills inside. She placed the food in front of Obiora. He looked at her and said, "You're learning to behave." He finished the food and soon became dizzy. He slept like a stone. Chiamaka sat in bed watching the clock. Midnight passed, 1 a.m. passed, 3 a.m. passed. For the first time in years, she slept. In the morning, Obiora woke up confused. "Did I sleep through the night?" he asked. Chiamaka smiled softly. "Yes, you were very tired." He didn't ask any more questions, but Chiamaka held the small bottle of pills in her hand and whispered, "I'm not afraid anymore." Chiamaka hoped Obiora wouldn't notice anything, but deep down she was scared. That one peaceful night had felt like a miracle. But miracles don't last long, not in her house. 2 nights later, Obiora was back to his usual self. At exactly midnight, he turned to her. "Don't sleep yet," he said. "You're mine." Chiamaka's chest became tight. She wanted to scream, to run, but she just closed her eyes and let her tears fall on the pillow. The next morning, she was late to deliver food again. This time it was a funeral. The family was angry. "We trusted you, Chiamaka," one woman shouted. Chiamaka apologized and promised a refund, but the shame followed her home. As she sat in her kitchen alone, she whispered, "I don't know how long I can do this." She remembered Neka, the market woman. Maybe, just maybe, she needed to talk. Someone had to hear her story before she lost herself completely. The next day, Chiamaka returned to the market. She walked quickly, her heart beating fast. Would Neka still be there? Would she remember her? She found her by the pepper stand. Neka smiled like she had been waiting. "You came," she said. Chiamaka nodded. "Can we talk?" she asked quietly. Neka led her to a corner behind her stall and gave her a small stool. At first, Chiamaka didn't know how to start, but slowly, the words came. She talked about the midnight pain, the fake smiles, the shame, the silence. Neka held her hand the whole time. When Chiamaka finished, she looked up and asked, "Is something wrong with me? Am I being a bad wife?" Neka shook her head. "No, my sister. What you are facing is not love, it's control. It's abuse." Chiamaka was shocked. She had never used that word before, abuse, but it fit perfectly. Then Neka shared her own story. She too had been in a marriage like that for 5 years. "I almost died," she said, "but I left. I ran, and I started over. You can too." Chiamaka felt tears fall again, but this time they were warm, not sad, not weak, just real. She stood up and hugged Neka. "Thank you. I don't feel so alone anymore." Neka smiled. "You're not anymore." Chiamaka didn't go home right away after talking with Neka. She walked slowly through the streets of Enugu, thinking about everything. Her mind felt heavy, like she was carrying a big bag of stones. For years, she had told herself that this was just what marriage looked like. But now, she wasn't so sure. Later that evening, she visited her mother in Abakpa. Mama was happy to see her. "My beautiful daughter," she said. "You're even more beautiful every time." Chiamaka smiled, but it didn't reach her heart. After dinner, she sat with Mama and said softly, "Mama, were you ever unhappy in your marriage?" Mama's smile faded. She looked at her daughter and asked, "Why are you asking me that?" Chiamaka hesitated, then opened up a little. "Obiora, sometimes he wants me at night even when I'm tired. And when I say no, he gets angry. He says I'm his wife. He doesn't listen. Every single night, Mama. Every night." Mama went quiet. Then she said, "That's how men are, my daughter. That's how they show love. Our own fathers were even worse. You just have to endure. Don't bring shame to the family." Those words hit Chiamaka like a knife. Shame, endure. She felt like a little girl again. For a moment, she wanted to scream, but instead, she nodded. "Okay, Mama," she whispered. But inside, her heart broke again. Even her own mother didn't understand. After her talk with Mama, Chiamaka felt more confused. She wanted to do the right thing, but what was the right thing? She couldn't tell more people. They would judge her. So she went to her church and asked to see Pastor Jeremiah. The pastor smiled kindly. "Sister Chiamaka, what can I do for you?" She sat quietly for a while before speaking. Then she told him everything, every night, every tear, every scream that never left her lips. When she was done, the pastor looked serious. "My sister," he said slowly, "marriage is not for the weak. You must pray harder. The devil is trying to break your home. Many women go through worse and still keep their homes together." Chiamaka blinked. "So, I should just keep quiet?" "No," he said. "But you must fight spiritually. Fast. Pray. God will touch your husband's heart." He laid hands on her head and began to pray loudly. "O Lord, restore peace to this marriage. Silence every evil voice speaking through her. Obedience and humility shall return." When she left the church, Chiamaka felt tired. Not refreshed, not helped. Just tired. She had come looking for light, but all she found was more darkness. That night, as Obiora turned to her again at midnight, something changed. She didn't cry. She didn't close her eyes. She just stared at the ceiling and whispered, "God, if you are truly listening, help me, because I don't know how much longer I can survive this." The next morning, Obiora was in a bad mood. He banged the bedroom door and shouted, "Where is my food? What kind of useless wife sleeps till 7 a.m.? Chiamaka had just finished praying. Her hands were still shaking from the night before. She rushed to the kitchen and made yam and egg sauce. When she placed it in front of him, he pushed the plate aside. "Do you think this will make me forget your attitude last night?" he barked. "You used to be sweet. Now you're becoming stubborn. Are you listening to those market women?" Chiamaka kept quiet. She was tired of talking, tired of explaining, but when he called her useless, something snapped inside her. She said softly, "I'm not useless. I work hard every day. I feed people. I feed you." Obiora stood up slowly. "What did you just say?" His eyes were wide with shock. "So, you now have a voice?" He stepped closer, his hand raised slightly, but stopped himself. He laughed coldly. "Careful, Chiamaka. You're playing a dangerous game." That evening, Chiamaka packed a small bag. She didn't leave, not yet. But the bag sat by the bedroom, door like a warning. Something was changing inside her, slowly but surely. 2 days later, Chiamaka had a catering delivery at a business seminar in New Haven. She set up the food with her team, trying to focus. She hadn't slept well in weeks. She wore makeup to hide her tired eyes. As she was serving pepper soup, a deep voice called her name. "Chiamaka?" She turned and saw a tall man in a white shirt. His eyes were kind and warm. She blinked. "Ifeanyi?" It was her old friend from university, her first love, the man she almost married. They hugged quickly. "You haven't changed," he said. "You're still glowing." Chiamaka smiled. "And you still know how to lie." They sat down after the event and talked like old friends. He told her about his new job, his travels, his kids. "And you?" he asked. "Are you happy?" Chiamaka paused. Her smile faded for just a second. "I'm alive," she said softly. Ifeanyi noticed the sadness in her eyes. "If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm still around," he said gently. When she got home, she didn't tell Obiora she saw someone. She didn't mention Ifeanyi's name, but that night when Obiora reached for her again, her heart screamed, "I should have married someone who loved me for real." And for the first time, she whispered a prayer she had never prayed before. "God, if I leave, will you still love me?" Chiamaka stood in front of the mirror the next morning. She had a small bruise on her arm. Obiora hadn't hit her. Not exactly. But last night, when she tried to push him away, he grabbed her too hard, too tight. The pain stayed even after he slept peacefully beside her. She covered the mark with makeup. No one could see it. But she saw it, and she remembered. That hand, that grip, that moment when she realized he would never stop unless she made him. At the shop later, her assistant, Ugochi, noticed something was wrong. "Auntie, you're not yourself," she said. "You look tired. Are you okay?" Chiamaka forced a smile. "I'm just a little weak, too many orders." But Ugochi wasn't convinced. She looked worried. "If you ever need help, real help, I'm here," she said softly. Chiamaka nodded, and for a second, she almost cried. Almost. That night, she sat in the kitchen long after Obiora had gone to bed. Her small bag still sat near the bedroom door. She stared at it. One word lived inside her chest now: escape. The next night was worse. Obiora came home drunk. He had never been a heavy drinker, but lately his anger was growing. He slammed the door and shouted, "Where is my food? You didn't even call to check on me today. What kind of wife are you?" Chiamaka stayed calm. "The food is in the kitchen," she said. But Obiora didn't go there. Instead, he pulled her close roughly. "You think you can starve me of attention too? Is there another man?" Chiamaka gasped. "What are you saying?" He slapped the wall beside her face. Not her face, yet. Just a warning. His voice dropped low. "I know women like you. You start feeling big because you make a little money. You forget who owns you." Chiamaka backed, away slowly. She was shaking, but she didn't scream. She didn't beg. She just said, "You don't own me, Obiora. I'm not property." That night, he didn't touch her. But in the morning, there was a small cut on her lip. She had bitten it while holding back her scream. At the shop, she wore dark glasses. Ugochi saw right through them. "Auntie, you can't hide forever," she whispered. Chiamaka didn't answer, but inside she made a promise to herself. "One more bruise, and I will leave. I don't care what the world says." It was a Saturday afternoon when Auntie Rose came to visit. She was Obiora's oldest sister, a woman with a loud voice and strong opinions. She didn't call ahead. She just walked into the compound and knocked like she owned the house. Chiamaka opened the door and forced a smile. "Auntie, welcome. You didn't tell us you were coming." "I don't need to tell you before visiting my brother's house," Auntie Rose said sharply. She looked around and frowned. "You haven't swept the veranda. You've changed, Chiamaka." You used to be a good wife. Obiora says you're now disrespectful. Chiamaka's hands tightened. She stayed calm. I've been working a lot. I'm just tired. Tired? Auntie Rose laughed coldly. You women of today don't know anything about marriage. In my time, we knew how to kneel, serve, and submit. You're lucky to have a man like Obiora. Strong men are rare. Chiamaka wanted to scream, but she didn't. She just nodded. Thank you, Auntie. Before leaving, Auntie Rose said, I hope you're not listening to bad friends. Don't let the devil use you. Stay in your marriage. A woman must endure. When she left, Chiamaka closed the door slowly and leaned on it. Her eyes filled with tears. How could they all say the same thing? How could they all expect her to endure pain and call it love? That night, she didn't sleep at all. She just watched the ceiling and whispered again, God, are you watching me at all? Something strange happened the next morning. Obiora came to the dining table and sat quietly. He didn't shout. He didn't demand food. He just sat there, staring at his hands. Chiamaka brought him rice and stew. As she turned to leave, he said softly, Sit down. She hesitated, then sat slowly. He didn't look at her. His voice shook when he spoke. Am I a monster? Chiamaka blinked. That was the last thing she expected to hear. I had a dream, Obiora continued. I saw you packing your things. You walked out and never came back. I was crying, alone, and no one cared. Chiamaka looked at him, unsure what to say. Part of her wanted to believe this was real, that maybe he was changing, that maybe, deep down, he knew the truth. Obiora finally looked into her eyes. His own were red. I don't want to lose you. I don't know how to stop. This anger, this need. I don't know what's wrong with me. For a moment, there was silence. Chiamaka saw a little boy inside him, lost and scared. And yet, she also remembered the bruises, the fear, the midnight tears. She stood up slowly. Obiora, you need help. Real help. Not just dreams. Until then, I need to protect myself. Even from you. She left him sitting there, head in his, hands crying into his rice. And for the first time, Chiamaka didn't feel weak for walking away. She felt strong. That afternoon, Chiamaka sat in her catering office, pretending to go over receipts. Ugochi, her assistant, was in the storeroom. Chiamaka opened a brown notebook hidden beneath her recipe files. It held more than recipes. It held her new, secret life. Inside was the record of a small account she had opened a few months ago. It wasn't much, but every time she finished a big order, she put something there. Just a little. 10,000. 20. Whatever she could spare without Obiora noticing, she whispered, This is my way out. The thought scared her. It also gave her hope. Later that day, she went to the bank. She greeted the teller and deposited more cash. The woman smiled. Saving for something special? Chiamaka nodded. Yes, she said softly. Something very special. As she left the bank, her phone rang. It was Obiora. Where are you? He asked. At the market, she lied. Come home early. I want to talk. Chiamaka hung up and sighed. Obiora never just talked, but she would go. And this time, she would be ready for whatever came. That night, the air in the house was thick. Obiora was quiet at first. Too quiet. He didn't eat. He didn't smile. He just sat in the dark, staring at the wall. Chiamaka moved carefully, like someone walking on broken glass. At midnight, he stood in the doorway of their room and said, Where do you go every day, Chiamaka? She turned slowly. Work. And where else? He asked, his voice cold. You think I don't know you're hiding something? You think I can't feel you slipping away? She stayed calm. Obiora, we can talk in the morning. He stepped closer. No, we'll talk now. You're planning to leave me, aren't you? You think I'm stupid? His voice rose. His eyes were wild. Then suddenly, he grabbed her wrist. "Where do you keep your money? Let go of me!" she cried. Obiora pushed her against the wall. For a second, she couldn't breathe. Her head hit the corner of the shelf. Blood trickled down her forehead. He froze, her eyes locked with his. No fear, just silence. Then something unexpected happened. Obiora fell to his knees. "I didn't mean to, I swear, I don't know what's wrong with me." Chiamaka held her bleeding head and said nothing. She didn't scream, she didn't fight. But as she sat on the bathroom floor cleaning her wound, one thing became clear. Next time, I may not survive. I have to leave, no more waiting. The next morning, Chiamaka wore a scarf over her head to hide the bandage. She told Obiora she was going to see a customer. He didn't argue. Maybe he was ashamed of the blood on her forehead. Or maybe he just didn't care anymore. But she didn't go to a client. She went to Neka's shop in the market. Neka looked at her face and gasped. "He hurt you again?" Chiamaka nodded. "I don't want to die in that house." Neka gave her a stool. "Then it's time. You'll leave. But not loud, not with tears. Quietly, like wind." They spoke for 2 hours. Neka knew someone, a woman who ran a shelter for abused women in Suka. "You can stay there until you find your feet. No one will know." Chiamaka wrote everything down. She would take only clothes, her secret money, and her documents. She would leave early in the morning while Obiora was still asleep. "I just need 2 more days," she said. Neka squeezed her hand. "You've already done the hardest part, my sister. You finally said enough." That evening, Chiamaka felt dizzy. She thought it was the stress, the lack of sleep, or maybe the knock to her head. She took Panadol and rested. But the next morning, she vomited while brushing her teeth. Ugochi noticed her pale face at work. "Auntie, are you pregnant?" Chiamaka laughed weakly. "No, I can't be. But the idea refused to leave her head. On her way home, she stopped at a small pharmacy. The woman at the counter gave her a test kit in a black nylon bag. She hid it deep in her purse like it was a sin. That night, when Obiora slept, she went to the bathroom, shaking. She followed the instructions, waited 5 minutes, then looked down. 2 red lines. Positive. She sat on the bathroom floor, numb. A baby. Now, when she was so close to freedom, tears rolled down her face. Not of joy, not of fear, just confusion. Deep, loud confusion in the middle of silence. She touched her belly, then whispered, "What do I do now? Leave with you. Inside me, or stay and die slowly." Chiamaka couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, one hand on her belly. Pregnant. The word felt heavy. It didn't feel like joy. Not this time, not in that house. She had always dreamed of being a mother, laughing with her child in the kitchen, teaching them to cook, watching cartoons together. But not like this. Not in fear. Not in silence. Not with a man who only saw her as a body. In the morning, she visited the hospital to confirm the result. The doctor smiled. "You're 8 weeks already. Congratulations." She nodded but said nothing. On her way home, she bought baby shoes, tiny white ones. She stared at them the whole drive. How could something so small bring so much confusion? She didn't tell Obiora. Not yet. She didn't know if she would. That night, she didn't sleep in the bedroom. She told him she had a headache and needed rest. He said nothing, just shrugged, and turned to the wall. She slept in the sitting room, one arm around her belly, and whispered, "Little one, I don't know what we're going to do, but I promise, I will not let you be born into fear." The next day, she went to see Neka. Again, Nika saw the fear in her eyes before she even spoke. "What happened?" "I'm pregnant." Silence. Neka sat down beside her. Does he know? No, Chiamaka whispered, and I don't want him to. I want to leave. I still want to go to Nsuka. Neka was quiet for a moment, then said, You're still allowed to leave, baby or not. You can't raise a child in that pain. Children feel what we don't say. Chiamaka nodded slowly. I just don't know if I'm strong enough. I keep thinking, what if he finds out? What if he tries to take the baby from me? Then you don't leave him a note. You disappear. Chiamaka blinked. Disappear? Neka looked her in the eyes. Pack. Leave early. Don't tell anyone. Change your number. If you want this child to have peace, you must run like peace depends on it. That night, Chiamaka packed again, but this time she added the baby shoes. And for the first time, she didn't cry. She whispered, We're going to live, baby. Not just survive, live. Chiamaka felt like a prisoner on a ticking clock. Every move she made had to look normal. Every smile had to feel real, but inside her, a storm was rising. 2 more days. That was her plan. She would take a bus to Nsuka at 5 a.m. with just 1 travel bag and her savings tucked under her wrapper. She had everything ready. Documents, phone charger, small food flask, baby scan. But Obiora was watching. He had started coming home early. He asked more questions. Where are you going? Who are you seeing? Why are you always writing in that small book? She lied gently. Just client orders. You know these weddings tire someone. One evening, while she was in the shower, she came out and saw her brown notebook had been moved. Her heart jumped. She picked it up. Some pages were folded differently. Obiora had touched it. That night she couldn't sleep. She stared at him while he snored beside her, thinking, if he knows I'm planning to run, he won't let me go, alive. It was one day to freedom. Chiamaka woke up early, even before the alarm. Her plan was simple. Wait for Obiora to leave the house, then sneak out quietly with her packed bag hidden in the wardrobe. But when she opened the wardrobe, the bag was gone. She froze. Not under the bed, not in the kitchen, not even behind the curtains. Then she turned around and saw Obiora standing in the doorway holding the bag in his hand. His face was calm, too calm. You were planning something, weren't you? He said quietly. Chiamaka's legs went weak. Obiora, it's not what you think. Oh, I think it is, he said, stepping into the room. You were going to leave. Take my child away. Start over without me. Like I'm nothing. Tears filled her eyes. You're not nothing, but you've hurt me too many times. I can't live in this pain anymore. He threw the bag across the room. Then die in it? Silence. For the first time, Chiamaka saw the truth. This man was never going to let her go. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat on the floor beside the bed, her eyes wide open. She needed a new plan, and this time, it had to work. No second chances. No more time. Only escape. The next morning, Chiamaka got dressed and headed to the door, pretending like she was going to the shop. She picked up her handbag, tried to open the door, but it wouldn't move. Locked from outside. She tried. The back door. Same thing. Panic started rising in her chest. She called out, Obiora! Obiora! What is this? He walked out from the bedroom, fully dressed for work. Calm, too calm, keys dangling in his hand. You're not going anywhere today, he said. Or tomorrow, or ever. You belong here. This is your home, your prison, your responsibility. Obiora, you can't keep me like this, she cried. I'm not an animal. You are my wife, he roared. You will stay until you learn to behave like one. When he finally left the house, he took the keys with him. Chiamaka sank to the floor. The house felt smaller than ever, like the walls were closing in. She looked at her phone. No signal. No Wi-Fi. Obiora had turned off the router. She was truly alone, trapped, but her spirit wasn't broken. She whispered, "I will still leave, even if I have to break this door down with my own hands." Hours passed. The sun began to set. Chiamaka sat on the floor, hungry and weak. Her mind raced through every possible escape. Maybe she could scream loud enough for neighbors. Maybe she could break a window. But what if he came back first? Then her phone lit up. One bar of signal. A message came through. "Ifeanyi. Hey, I'm in Enugu again. Just checking on you. You okay?" Her hands shook. Her chest tightened. "Was this a sign?" She replied quickly. "Chiamaka. No, I'm not okay. I'm locked in. He found out. I don't know what to do." Seconds later, her phone rang. "Chiamaka." Ifeanyi's voice was calm, but full of worry. "Tell me where you are." She hesitated. "Obiora can't know." "He won't," Ifeanyi said. "Just send me the address. I'll come." Chiamaka cried as she typed the location. An hour later, headlights flashed outside the gate. Then, a knock. "Chiamaka, it's me." Her legs couldn't move fast enough. She ran to the front window. There he was, Ifeanyi, sweating, breathing hard, eyes full of fire. He climbed the fence, came around the back, found a small kitchen window, and broke it. When she finally stepped out into the night air, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Freedom. Even if it lasted just a few hours. Even if Obiora came looking. At least now, she had someone in her corner. Ifeanyi drove fast through the dark Enugu roads, glancing at Chiamaka every few seconds. She sat in the front seat, her hands wrapped tightly around her belly, her eyes wide and silent. Neither of them spoke for a while. "You're safe now," Ifeanyi said softly. "We'll figure the rest out later." Chiamaka nodded. "Thank you." I didn't know who else to call. He took her to a small guest house on the outskirts of town. Quiet, hidden, far from their old neighborhood. He paid for 2 nights. "Rest," he said. "Tomorrow we'll make a plan." Alone in the room, Chiamaka stood by the window for a long time. The curtains moved gently. There were no locked doors, no shouting, no footsteps coming to grab her at midnight. For the first time in years, she felt like she could breathe. She lay on the bed, one hand on her belly. "We made it, baby. We're out. But we're not done yet." She knew Obiora would soon start searching, and she knew that running was only the first step. Now, she had to stay free. The next morning, Chiamaka sat in the guest house room, drinking hot pap. Her stomach turned from the pregnancy, but she forced herself to eat. Ifeanyi brought fresh clothes and a small phone with a new SIM card. "Don't call anyone from your old number," he said. "Not even your staff." "What about Ugochi?" she asked. "She's like a sister." "She might mean well," he said. "But Obiora could track her. For now, silence is safety." She nodded. It hurt to cut everyone off, but it was true. Later that afternoon, a knock came on her door. She froze, her heart beat wildly. Then came a voice. His voice. "Obiora, Chiamaka. I know you're in there," she gasped, stepping back. "How? How did he find her?" "I just want to talk," he said calmly, too calmly. "Let's fix this. You're carrying my child." She looked out the back window. Ifeanyi's car was gone. He had stepped out to get groceries. "Don't make this worse," Obiora called. "I'll break the door if I have to." Chiamaka grabbed the small phone and dialed Ifeanyi with shaky hands. "Obiora is here," she whispered. "Lock the door. Don't speak. I'm 5 minutes away." She sat behind the bed, heart pounding like thunder. The doorknob turned once, twice, a kick. She closed her eyes and prayed, "God, I've come too far. Don't let him take me back." Obiora kicked the door again, harder this time. Chiamaka covered her ears and pressed her back against the bed. Her eyes were wide. Her chest refused to breathe. She clutched her belly and whispered, "Please hold on, baby, please." "Chiamaka!" Obiora roared. "Open this door or I swear." Then, a car horn, loud, urgent, silence. Ifeanyi's voice echoed from outside. "Step away from the door, Obiora." Chiamaka jumped to her feet and ran to the window. Ifeanyi had returned, with two men behind him. One was a security officer from the guest house. The other had a badge around his neck. "Who are you to interfere in my marriage?" Obiora shouted. "She's not your prisoner," Ifeanyi snapped. "You came here to threaten a woman who ran from abuse, and now the police will hear everything." Obiora's face changed. His pride melted into panic. "You think they'll believe her? She's my wife. She's also someone's daughter, someone's mother-to-be. And today, she is done being your victim." Chiamaka opened the door slowly. Obiora turned and saw her. "Chiamaka, please. Let's talk. Just me and you." She shook her head. "There's nothing left to say." The officer stepped forward. "Sir, you're under investigation for unlawful entry and domestic violence. Please come with us." Obiora froze. His hands went up. For the first time, he looked small. As they led him away, Chiamaka sat on the floor. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She just whispered, "This is what the beginning of peace feels like." That night, Chiamaka lay on a clean white bed with clean white sheets. The window was open. The fan hummed gently. Ifeanyi stayed outside, keeping watch, making sure no one followed. She was safe, for now. Her hands rested on her belly, rubbing gently. She hadn't felt the baby move yet, but she whispered, "You're strong. Just like your mama." She remembered all the nights she had been woken by pain, by fear, by footsteps creeping toward her, nights where her pillow soaked her tears, nights where she begged God silently. But now, silence felt different, peaceful, free. She picked up her journal and wrote, "Day 1. Free woman. Still scared, but free." Then she lay down, turned off the light, and let her eyes close. For the first time in years, Chiamaka slept through the night. No fear, no footsteps, no fire at midnight. Just the soft promise of dawn. 3 days later, Chiamaka stood in front of a tall gray building, the Enugu family court. She had come for a hearing. The officer who arrested Obiora had filed a case. There were questions to answer, choices to make. Ifeanyi stood beside her, calm and strong. He said, "Whatever you choose today, it's your right. No pressure, you don't owe anyone silence." Inside the courtroom, Obiora sat on the other side. Clean shirt, tired eyes. He looked smaller than before. He didn't shout. He didn't. "Look at her." The judge, a woman with a firm voice, spoke directly to Chiamaka. "Madam, do you wish to file for a full protection order? If so, we can bar your husband from contacting you forever." Chiamaka stared at her hands. They were no longer shaking. She looked at Obiora, looked at the man who once made her cry every night, the man who made her forget how to smile. Then, she looked at the judge. "Yes, I want full protection. For me and for my child." The judge nodded. "So it shall be." Obiora finally spoke. "Chiamaka, I'm sorry." But she didn't respond. She walked out of the courtroom head high. The first time, she wasn't just escaping, she was choosing herself. 1 week later, Chiamaka stood in a different kitchen. Not hers, not Obiora's. It was a small, borrowed space at the women's shelter in Nasuka. There were only 2 pots and a tiny stove, but her heart was full. She chopped onions slowly. The scent filled the room. Another woman walked in and smiled. "You cook like a queen." Chiamaka smiled back. "I used to," Before I became a prisoner, the woman laughed. Then I guess you're back. That day, Chiamaka made jollof rice for 15 women and 5 children, all survivors like her. She dished the food with love. And when they prayed before eating, one of the women said, "Thank you, Chiamaka. You've brought joy to our stomachs." Her hands shook a little, but this time it was from gratitude. Later, Ifeanyi called. "How are you?" she replied. "Today." I smiled without pretending. "That's something, right?" He laughed gently. "That's everything." After the call, she sat alone, feeling her baby kick for the first time. Tears rolled down her cheeks, not from pain, but from hope. She whispered, "You're kicking because you feel it too. We're safe now. We're building something new." It had been 3 weeks since the court hearing. Chiamaka now spent her days helping in the shelter kitchen, journaling in the evenings, and walking slowly as her belly grew. Every kick reminded her life was still moving forward, but healing wasn't fast. Sometimes at night she would still wake up, heart pounding, thinking someone was coming. She would reach for the old bruises, even though they were gone. One morning, during breakfast at the shelter, the matron, Mama Uduak, asked, "Have you picked a name for the baby?" Chiamaka froze. A name? She had thought about it once, long ago, when she still dreamed of a happy home. She used to say, "If it's a girl, I'll name her Adaugo. If it's a boy, he'll be Chidubem." Now, she couldn't say those names out loud. They felt like they belonged to another life. "I haven't decided," she said softly. Mama Uduak nodded. "That's okay. But one day you'll speak that name with joy, not fear." That night, Chiamaka opened her journal and wrote the names again, just to see how they looked. She didn't cry this time. The next day, Ifeanyi came to visit. He brought fresh fruits, bread, and a soft green wrapper for her baby. They sat outside under a mango tree in the shelter's courtyard. "I found a small shop in Abakpa," he said. "Cheap rent, good traffic. It could be a new place for your business." Chiamaka looked down. "I don't know if I'm ready." "You are," he said gently. "You just don't feel like it yet." She thought about it. She had lost her old shop, her clients, her name in the business world. Starting over felt scary, but then she looked at her hands. The same hands that once stirred pots for hundreds of weddings. The same hands that now held her belly with care. She nodded. "Maybe I'll go and see it." When Ifeanyi smiled, it wasn't pushy, just proud. Proud of her for even considering a future again. As he drove off, Chiamaka walked back inside. One of the children at the shelter ran up to her and hugged her waist. "Auntie Chi, when you cook, it makes me forget sad things." She knelt down and held the little girl tight. And in that moment, something clicked. She wasn't just healing for herself anymore. She was healing so others could believe healing was possible too. 2 weeks later, Chiamaka stood in front of a small corner shop in Abakpa. The paint was peeling. The windows were dusty. The signboard was blank. But somehow, it felt like freedom. She walked through the doorway and ran her fingers along the old counter. It smelled of dust and forgotten dreams, but it was hers now. Ifeanyi joined her shortly after. "What do you think?" She smiled faintly. "It's not beautiful, but it's honest." They spent the next few days cleaning, scrubbing, repainting. The shelter women donated some utensils. Mama Uduak gave her a used gas burner. Even Ugochi, who hadn't heard from her in over a month, found her and came with tears and tomatoes. "Auntie Chi," she cried, "I've been praying for you every day." Chiamaka hugged her tight. "I missed you." When the place was ready, she stood at the doorway holding a piece of chalk. "What will you name it?" Ugochi asked. Chiamaka thought for a long moment. Then she wrote on the board, "Dawn Kitchen," because that was what it was, the place where the darkness ended. The first customer was a young mechanic who smelled of engine oil. "I hear say una jollof de make person dream," he joked. Chiamaka laughed. "Let's see if your dream comes true." Word spread quickly. Within 3 days, she was selling out of food by noon. Jollof, egusi, yam porridge, small chops. Her hands moved fast, but her heart moved faster. It was healing in motion. One evening, she sat on a stool, watching the sunset outside the shop. Her baby kicked again, stronger this time. "You're hungry too, Abby," she said, rubbing her belly. Ugochi brought her a bowl of pepper soup. "Auntie, you're glowing," Chiamaka smiled. "That's because this child inside me loves pepper." Later that night, she walked back to the shelter slowly, her feet swollen from the day's work. Ifeanyi called. "I passed by Dawn Kitchen today. You had customers laughing on the bench outside. You've built something again, Chiamaka?" She paused. "I'm still scared sometimes." "Even brave people get scared," he replied. "But you didn't let fear stop you." She stood in front of the mirror that night, touched her belly and whispered, "I lost everything, but I'm building everything again. One plate, one prayer, one peaceful night at a time." It was a quiet evening. Chiamaka had just closed the shop and was counting the day's earnings. She had sold out before 2 p.m. again. Business was growing, fast, and she was planning to hire someone new. She was humming softly, wiping the counter, when she felt something strange, a sharp pain in her lower back. She paused. Then, a gush of warm water soaked her wrapper. Her heart jumped. Ugochi, who was sweeping nearby, screamed, "Auntie Chi, it's time!" Chiamaka grabbed the nearest chair and sat down. Another pain came, this one stronger. Ifeanyi arrived minutes later, breathless. "The car is outside! Let's go!" In the car, she gripped the seat and hissed, "Why does it feel like my body is tearing?" "Because you're bringing something beautiful into the world," he said, holding her hand tightly. They rushed into the hospital just before midnight. Tears, screams, pushing, breathing, and then a cry. Not hers. A new voice. Small, loud, alive. "It's a girl," the nurse said, placing the baby in her arms. Chiamaka looked down at the tiny face, and for the first time in her life, she wept for joy. They let her rest. She held her baby through the night, staring at every tiny movement, counting fingers, listening to soft breaths. The pain of childbirth was already fading into memory. Ugochi arrived with fresh pap and moi. "She looks like you," she whispered. Ifeanyi stood by the door, not saying much, but his eyes never left them. Mother and child, a full circle. Later, that afternoon, a nurse came with a form. "We need the baby's name," Chiamaka froze. Then, she smiled. She wrote slowly, carefully, Adaugo. Daughter of an eagle, because that's what she wanted her child to be, strong, free, above all storms. But as she handed back the paper, the nurse said, "Oh, one visitor came earlier, left a card." Chiamaka opened the card slowly. Her heart skipped. It was from Obiora. "I heard she's born. I will fight for what's mine." Her hand shook. The room spun slightly. Not now. Not when she had just begun to breathe. She held Adaugo closer, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "He may fight, but this time, I will not run. I will stand." 2 weeks after baby Adaugo's birth, Chiamaka was back home at the shelter. She had learned how to carry her baby with one arm while stirring soup with the other. She was tired, but a peaceful kind of tired, the kind that came from purpose. But peace, as always, was short-lived. That afternoon, a man in a brown suit walked into the shelter compound. He asked for her by name and handed her a large white envelope. A court letter. Obiora had filed a custody suit. He wanted Adaugo. Chiamaka stood frozen, baby clutched to her chest, fingers gripping the paper tightly. She opened it slowly, every word. Stabbing deeper, the father requests full legal rights to the child. The mother is accused of emotional instability and reckless behavior, having abandoned the marriage without due process. Her knees buckled. She sat down slowly. Tears dropped on the paper. The worst part wasn't the lies. It was the fear that someone might believe them. Later that night, she sat in bed while Adaugo slept beside her. "First, he owned my body," she whispered. "Now, he wants to own you too." She reached for her journal and wrote one sentence. "I didn't survive. Hell just to hand heaven back." The next day, Chiamaka met with Mama Uduak and the shelter's legal counselor. They sat under the mango tree again, but this time there was no breeze, just heat, tension, and fear hiding beneath her calm face. "You can fight this," the counselor said, "but we'll need evidence, witnesses, records." Chiamaka nodded. "I have everything: pictures, police reports, medical records, even the court protection order." "But Obiora has money," Mama Uduak warned, "and family connections." "Then we'll fight with truth," Chiamaka said. "I will not lose my daughter." Ugochi came the next day with her statement, how she saw the bruises, how she once helped Chiamaka cover them with makeup. Neka also came, strong and proud, willing to testify. Even Ifeanyi offered to speak, but Chiamaka shook her head gently. "Let me stand alone first. If they say I'm weak, I want to prove them wrong myself." Still, he remained close. Not to speak for her, but to hold her up if she ever fell. That night, Chiamaka sat in her shop, watching the small lights of Dawn Kitchen glow. She looked down at Adaugo sleeping peacefully in her sling. Then she whispered, "They tried to take my voice, then my freedom, then my peace. They will not take you." The courtroom was cold, too cold. Chiamaka sat beside her lawyer, hands trembling under her wrapper. She held a small handkerchief in her lap, Adaugo's first cloth. She pressed it into her palm like a lifeline. Obiora sat on the other side, clean-cut, calm, pretending to be a man of dignity. His lawyer stood tall and confident, papers in hand, ready to twist truth into lies. The judge looked tired. Another case, another drama. But for Chiamaka, this wasn't drama. It was everything. Obiora's lawyer spoke first. "Your Honor, my client seeks custody not out of pride, but out of deep concern. The child's mother left her marital home abruptly, with no stability, no income, and no father figure for the child." Chiamaka looked down. Her heart raced, her stomach twisted. Then it was her lawyer's turn. He stood slowly, calm, kind. "Your Honor, this case is not about a father fighting for his child. It is about a man trying to punish a woman for choosing to live." He handed over photos, hospital reports, police records, the protection order. The courtroom grew still. Obiora's face changed slightly. His calm mask cracked for just a moment. Then the judge turned to Chiamaka. "Madam, do you have anything to say?" She stood, shaky, small, but her voice came out, clear. "He never asked how I was, not once. All he wanted was control. He used my body, broke my mind, and now he wants my daughter." She paused. Her voice broke. "But I didn't carry her for 9 months just to watch her grow up in fear." Silence. The judge nodded slowly. "Noted," he said. Court adjourned. The real decision would come later. But for the first time, Chiamaka had said it out loud. 2 days later, Chiamaka sat outside Dawn Kitchen after closing. She was peeling plantains when a motorcycle stopped by the road. A young boy jumped down, handed her a small envelope, and rode off. The handwriting on the front was familiar. She opened it slowly. It was from Obiora's mother. "Chiamaka, I know I failed you. I watched my son treat you like a thing, and I stayed silent. I was taught to be silent. but silence destroyed us all. I heard about the court case. I will not stand with Obiora. Not this time. You deserve peace, and that child deserves light. Tears spilled down Chiamaka's face. She hadn't expected support, especially not from that woman. She folded the letter carefully and placed it inside her journal. That night, as she rocked Adaugo to sleep, she whispered, "We are not alone. Even the old walls are falling." Then she kissed her daughter's forehead and whispered something even stronger. "They will not take you. I swear it on every bruise I ever hid." The courtroom was quiet, still, like a church before prayer. Chiamaka sat with her hands folded tightly in her lap. Adaugo was at the shelter, safe, asleep in the arms of Ugochi. But Chiamaka's thoughts were there, always there, by her baby's side. The judge cleared his throat and adjusted his glasses. "I have reviewed all submitted documents, testimonies, and the history of this case." Chiamaka's heart pounded. She stared straight ahead. She wouldn't look at Obiora. Not now, not ever again. The judge continued. "The mother has proven a clear and consistent history of emotional abuse, physical harm, and neglect of safety by the father." Obiora shifted in his seat. "The court grants full custody of the child, Adaugo Obiora, to the mother, Chiamaka Obiora. The father is barred from all access until further review." Chiamaka gasped. Her lawyer squeezed her hand. It was over. She had won, not just the case, but her right to breathe, to live, to raise her child without fear. As she stood to leave, Obiora called out, "Chiamaka, wait!" She turned slowly, her voice steady. "You lost the moment you thought I belonged to you." And she walked out of the courtroom into the light. No music, no shouting, no dancing. When Chiamaka returned to the shelter, she didn't even tell the others the court's decision. She just walked in, kissed her baby's forehead, and held her close. Mama Uduak noticed. "You won, didn't you?" Chiamaka nodded slowly. "Yes, but I don't feel like celebrating." "Why not?" Chiamaka looked down at Adaugo, sleeping softly. "Because even after winning, the scars are still there." She placed her hand over her heart. "The world says I'm free, but sometimes I still hear his voice in my head." Mama Uduak wrapped her arms around her gently. "That's what healing is, my child. Not forgetting, but feeling, and still moving forward." Later that night, Chiamaka sat by the window of Dawn Kitchen. A soft breeze blew through the curtains. The street was quiet. She picked up her journal and wrote, "Victory is not loud. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it sounds like a baby breathing beside you. Sometimes it feels like eating alone without fear." She closed the book. She smiled, for the first time in days. Then she whispered, "This is what freedom tastes like." One bright Monday morning, Chiamaka stood in front of her shop, Dawn Kitchen, wearing a freshly ironed wrapper and holding baby Adaugo in one arm. Business had tripled. Customers were now lining up by 7:30 a.m. Workers, students, even a few local policemen. One man even said, "Your beans stew they solve problem." She laughed from her belly. Her laugh used to sound fake, stiff, unsure. Now it came out full and free. She had added a second hand to help her cook, a young widow named Bissy, who lost her husband to illness and was raising 2 boys alone. Chiamaka didn't just give her a job, she gave her dignity, and for the first time she began planning bigger. "Maybe I can get a freezer," she told Ugochi. "Start bottling Zobo. Sell. In bulk. You should name it after Adaugo." Ugochi smiled. Chiamaka chuckled. "Let's wait till she starts walking first." Later that evening, Ifeanyi visited with a surprise, a signboard. It said, "Dawn Kitchen and Zobo House, where peace lives, Chiamaka." Touched the signboard gently. Then she looked at him. The same man who had once known her as a girl, now standing beside her as a woman reborn. "You think I can grow this?" she asked. "I know you can," he said. And for the first time, she believed it too. The next Sunday, Chiamaka went to church. She wore a yellow lace gown and tied her scarf the way her late grandmother used to, elegant and proud. People stared, not in pity anymore, but in admiration. "That's the woman from Dawn Kitchen," someone whispered. After service, the pastor invited her to speak. She hesitated. Then she walked to the front, took the microphone, and told her story. Not all of it, but enough. "I was once afraid to go to sleep. Now, I own my mornings." The crowd clapped. Some cried. Later, outside the church, an old woman stopped her. "You saved my niece," she said. "She was in a bad marriage, too. You gave her courage." Chiamaka smiled. "I'm still learning courage myself." That night, as she fed a Dago Pap in their small room, she heard a knock. It was Ifeanyi. He held a small book. "What's this?" she asked. He smiled. "Your story. I wrote it down. One day, a Dago should read it." Chiamaka took it, held it close, and whispered, "Thank you for remembering the parts I tried to forget." It came on a Thursday morning, folded neatly in a brown envelope and carried by a delivery man with tired shoes. Chiamaka had just finished frying Puff Puff when she opened it. It was a letter from a popular food entrepreneur in Lagos, Chef Darren Olatunde. She had watched one of Chiamaka's videos on social media. Ugochi had secretly posted a clip of her serving food with a Dago on her back. The letter said, "Your story touched me deeply. And your food? Beautiful. I would like to invite you to Lagos for a 3-week mentorship program. All expenses paid. Let's build something bigger. Your kitchen deserves to be known." Chiamaka dropped the letter. Her heart was thumping. She had never left Enugu since her escape. The thought of traveling, leaving her comfort, her shop, the shelter that became home, it scared her. But the thought of what she could become if she said yes, that made her tremble even more. That night, she sat in her room with a Dago asleep. On her chest, she stared at the letter again. "You're not just my reason to survive," she whispered. "You're my reason to rise." The next morning, Chiamaka called Mama Uduak. "I got an offer," she said. "A good one, but I'm afraid." Mama Uduak smiled over the phone. "Fear doesn't mean stop. Sometimes fear means you're about to do something brave." She called Ifeanyi next. "I'm going to Lagos for 3 weeks." There was silence. "Wow," he said finally. "I'm proud of you. I need someone to stay close to Dawn Kitchen while I'm gone and look after. A Dago and I have training hours." "I'll do it," he said without hesitation. "You don't have to." "I want to." She nodded slowly. "Thank you." Ugochi helped her pack. Wrapper, aprons, prayer journal, spices from home. When the bus to Lagos arrived, Chiamaka stood, for a moment, holding her bag in one hand and her daughter in the other. She looked back at her shop, her life, her survival. Then she whispered, "I'm not running this time. I'm stepping forward." And as the bus pulled away, a Dago clapped her tiny hands from her seat. Even she knew a new dawn had come. Lagos was bigger than anything Chiamaka had ever imagined. The traffic roared like an angry choir. The buildings reached the clouds. And the people moved like they were chasing something invisible. Chef Darren's culinary school was inside a tall glass building in Victoria Island. When Chiamaka stepped into the lobby, holding a Dago with one hand and her travel bag in the other, heads turned. Her slippers felt out of place. Her wrapper felt loud, but she didn't shrink. She just whispered to herself, "I belong here, even if I don't look like it yet." That first day, Chef Darren gave her a warm welcome. "We don't just teach cooking here, we teach confidence. Let's bring your fire to the world." But the other chefs were different. Polished, sharp-tongued, Instagram famous. Some looked at her with curious eyes. One even laughed. "You still cook with firewood?" Chiamaka smiled, but the shame burned quietly. That night, she rocked Adalgo to sleep in her small guest room and wrote in her journal, "I am not here to prove myself to them. I am here to become the woman I dreamed of when I cried into my own pillow." The second week of training was tougher. The pressure, the speed, the competition. They were given a challenge: create a fusion dish that told a story, something personal, bold, unique. Others made jollof sushi, egusi risotto, peppered snail tacos. Chiamaka stood in the kitchen, staring at her ingredients. Her hands shook. She remembered the first meal she cooked after escaping Obiora: yam porridge. Simple, soft, safe. But this wasn't just yam, it was survival. She plated it with grilled fish, sprinkled dried scent leaves on top, and served it with zobo sauce on the side. Then she stood before the judges. "I call this the fire at dawn," she said, voice clear. They blinked. She continued, "Because this dish was made by hands that once shook. Hands that used to feed pain. But now, they feed peace." The room went quiet. Chef Darren took one bite, then nodded slowly. "You didn't just serve food, you served truth." They clapped, not out of pity, out of respect. That night, Chiamaka sat by the window, holding Adalgo close. And for the first time in her life, she didn't just feel free. She felt powerful. When the bus pulled into Enugu, the air felt familiar, but the woman who stepped off was not the same. Chiamaka wore a mustard yellow blouse and black jeans, her hair in a neat twist, her baby strapped to her back. Her face was calm, but her eyes carried fire. Not the kind that burns, the kind that builds. Ugochi ran to her with tears in her eyes. "Auntie Chi, you came back." "I told you I would." The women at the shelter prepared a quiet welcome. Nothing loud, just hugs, warm soup, and tears that didn't need explaining. Later that evening, Chiamaka walked to her shop, Dawn Kitchen. It was still standing, still busy, still hers. But she had changed. She stepped behind the counter and picked up a spoon, like it was the first time. Customers clapped. Children ran up to her. Mama Uduak stood by the door, arms folded, smiling like a mother who'd watched her child conquer the world. That night, Chiamaka looked up at the stars and whispered, "I was never just escaping, I was rising." A year passed. Adalgo was now, walking, laughing, and calling everyone Mama. Dawn Kitchen had grown into Dawn Catering and Food School, a space where women who had been broken came to learn how to cook, how to earn, and most importantly, how to heal. Chiamaka stood in front of a small group of women one Saturday morning. She wore an apron and held a microphone. Her voice didn't shake anymore. "I once thought the fire in my life came to destroy me. But now, I know it came to wake me up, to push me out of the place where fear had made a home." She looked at her daughter, who was sitting near the kitchen, clapping as the women sang a welcome song. Then she continued, "You see, when the fire came, I didn't understand it. It burned. It scared me. It almost killed me. But now, I bless it, because it brought me here." The women clapped. Some cried. Some hugged each other. And as Chiamaka placed the final dish on the table, she smiled, not as a survivor, not even as a teacher, but as a woman who had found peace. At last. Because sometimes the fire doesn't come to destroy you, it comes to show you the dawn.